parties.
Okay, all right. So let's talk about the conversation around political parties and preparation for 2022 election. I want to begin by looking at something that came out last week, or was communicated to the media last week by the Iabc, talking about that all the 89 political parties had not complied with the nomination rules. There's a requirement, there are several requirements they were supposed to pay attention to, and so there you go. 89 political parties, none of the 89 political parties has fully complied with the requirements of the law on nomination rules. They also said, this is the Iabc in a statement, that the political parties are required to revise nomination rules and resubmit by 16th of November, that is today. And Iabc is to issue certificate of compliance to compliant political parties, and parties not cleared won't be allowed to participate in the 2022 general election. Something else that Iabc said is that this is one of the concerns to Iabc, to the ODM, that they needed to include in the election boards a provision for the composition of the election board, or replace as provided for in the party constitution. So they had not clearly stated how election boards would be constituted. Then define gender role, or the gender rule compliance in the board. Remember the two-third requirement, two-third gender requirement from the constitution. They need to define the board's term of office, and to also define the security of tenure of the board, that is of the members that will be appointed to that board. And also on the code of conduct, despite providing for it, they needed to make a provision for the monitoring mechanism of the code of conduct. Let me begin with you, SG Sifuna. These are just some of the concerns that came from Iabc, including on the internal dispute resolution, that the Iabc felt that you had not provided whether the alternative, the internal dispute resolution would be independent of party leadership and the institutions. You needed to make a provision on independence of appeals tribunal and provide for two-third gender rule in the tribunal. Are these concerns that you've already addressed, and have you now received your compliance certificate?
You can see that there are very innocuous concerns from the Iabc. They were saying provide for this or replicate things that are already in your constitution. So, for instance, on the question of providing for the gender balance in the board. In fact, we already have more than the requirement set in the law on gender balance. If you look at all our organs, the problem I had with the communication from Iabc, and I shared some of this with you in the press, that in fact it is very bad manners the way Iabc treats political parties, yet we are the biggest stakeholder when it comes to elections. I didn't find it amusing that they could write letters to us as political parties, and before we receive those letters, they have sent copies to you in the media. So I was shocked. They released a press statement saying, oh, all the 89 political parties. And by the way, Sam, I have protested and will continue to protest this banding together of political parties. Then we are put in the headline as if all of us are the same and that all of us are non-compliant. The concerns that they have raised, they are very, very innocuous things. If you look at the mandatory checklist that they sent to us as political parties, I think there's a myriad of requirements, and they pointed out only these three that have nothing to even do with political party nominations. So the simple answer is yes. Those are things we did within 10 minutes because we have a legal affairs committee. They received the communication from Iabc, the one that you've shared with your viewers, and we were able to do it in 10 minutes. It's not something to put us on a headline.
You said that they communicated to the media before yourselves. Yeah. The statement said that you would have to do that within 14 days, the latest 16th. Yeah. One would imagine that this is a letter that left Iabc on the 2nd or thereabout, 2nd of November.
By the time we were reading about our non-compliance in the newspaper, I had not received the letter that was pointing out my non-compliance. So even when I'm asked by members of the party or members of the media to point out what the issues are, I couldn't do it. So I think it is disrespectful for the Iabc to be able to deal with us as the greatest stakeholders in elections the way that they are doing so casually. At least they would have allowed us to receive the letters. At least I didn't have the letter pointing out the things that you are identifying. And look at the things that they are talking about. A monitoring mechanism for the code of conduct, an IDRM structure provide for membership of the IDRM and independence of that tribunal. These are innocuous things that should not be,
Okay, Gikuru, it's deadline today, and I mean all the political parties are not compliant, so that includes the ANC. What were the concerns from IBC on your side, and have you now complied?
Oh yeah, there were a few things. Actually, we received the letter like everybody else, and there were 4 main issues that they raised with our nomination rules and procedures. And there was an issue on the gender balance for our organs. There was an issue on the issue of as they raised with ODM to do with the nomination fees for the various categories of candidates for various positions. And for us, as Funa says, it wasn't really major issues, fundamentally, so to speak. Sifuna says they did it in 10 minutes. Well, it took us a few hours, around 3 or so hours, because we also have a very serious legal team, and we submitted, and we are waiting their...
So the length of time
we are waiting
directly proportional to
seriousness. We are waiting the response. But fundamentally, I would say that we didn't find any offense in how they raised it.
Okay.
It was a courteous letter. It was procedural. And we responded. We've already submitted we have resubmitted our nomination rules.
Have you been cleared now?
Well, I would imagine nobody has been cleared yet. Okay. Today is the deadline. By Friday we had submitted, so we are waiting to hear from them. And we commend them for being thorough in terms of making sure that the legal framework is observed, we are compliant fully, and we will continue as main stakeholders cooperating with IEBC. And so we didn't find anything out of the ordinary in the issues they raised.
Right.
There were legal requirements, procedures, and we've responded to that. We believe that our nomination rules and procedures, actually, because I spoke to one of the contacts there at the IBC, were among the most compliant, because they only raised 3 issues with us, which we did in a few hours and submitted.
Okay.
Yeah.
SJ Minor, are they just being fussy, or it's a good thing to do as we prepare for a very rigorous exercise that the election is likely to be?
Okay, one thing I'm sure is that I can see the IEBC did read the rules. That I was sure that definitely the comments they gave us were detailed. They were article to article, provision to provision, and I think that's very responsible of them to go through the rules. I'm happy they picked the issue of gender, because it's an issue that every political party needs to continue checking and ensuring that we are checkmating even one another, so that we ensure every institution and every political party is compliant. So while we did not take any offense in that, and we were able to actually give back the feedback, and maybe it's the way they communicated that information, because IBC must ensure that whatever they communicate to political parties is not alarmist in any way.
Okay.
Particularly because they're the same political parties that took part in general elections in 2017. And nothing much has changed. The gender rule was there in the Constitution, and there was no way any political party could constitute any organ without ensuring that gender rule is complied with. And then there was the aspect...
But is it important to secure it in the rules?
Yes, it is important to secure it. And if they feel as anything is vague, then they need to ask the party to affirm. And then they needed from our part to ensure that all our organs will be independent, especially the National Elections Board, the internal dispute resolution mechanism, just to make sure that we have inbuilt provisions that ensure that a candidate who participates or an aspirant who participates in those processes and is subjected to those organs, then has an assurance that there is no interference from any quota in the party, and that those institutions can dispense their mandate with a lot of independence. So from our end, we complied. Actually, we complied very quickly and returned the rules. We have resubmitted them back, and I hope IBC can do a round table with political parties. ORPP does that very effectively, and they are able to speak to the 89 and walk the journey with the 89 political parties. Because between IBC and ORPP, there is a lot of compliance that needs to be done before parties can participate. But that having been said, you can imagine what kind of panic it would cause Kenyans to see all their political parties are not compliant. So it looked as though there was a big master in IBC with the master script, and all the political parties fell very short of those standards. That picture shouldn't have been created like that. Could have been communicated better. But we see the thoroughness in the way they dealt with it.
And Dr. Chris, what was the concerns for Ford Kenya? And as we move on to the next steps, because there are many, it's a lengthy process, what are you looking forward to in improving this relationship between the political parties and the IEBC?
First and foremost, actually I want to congratulate IBC. They are on top of things. Much that the issues they raised were not that significant, but it shows how determined they are. They went through the rules, they read. As you can see, even people who boast their biggest political parties, they made mistakes, and there's always room for improvement. So this is to tell you, particularly on the issues of the party list, because I saw that was a concern. There are some regions in this country, if party primaries are not done properly, there's a lot of mess. And once you win some seats or some nomination on certain party tickets, you are guaranteed that one leg is already in parliament. And one of the greatest responsibility of IBC is to ensure that the elections are free, fair, and credible. And that's why they must go to the extent of ensuring the party nominations are done. I also want to salute the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties. Last week I was invited, and Veronica was there, when they launched the e-Citizen, whereby on a click of a button you'll be able to know which political party do you belong to. So when it comes to party primaries, that's where the problem is. So once we have that e-Citizen, at least when it comes to party primaries, we'll only allow members of that particular party to participate in their respective party primaries. And in Parliament, I think it was in Senate, Senator Mwaura, unfortunately he was out. He had sponsored a bill on party primaries, which will have put a clear framework as far as party primaries are concerned. There are some political parties, they don't do nominations, they just pick points. So to me, what IBC has done, it is good, and particularly on the aspect of independence. This board, you must put a provision that is independent of the party leader, independent of the Secretary General. Sifuna can decide to give himself a party ticket. So it is important, independence of these organs of nominations must be there. The internal party dispute resolution mechanism, it is very, very critical. And I saw last time many parties, including Ford Kenya, there's no party you can say it is normally safe. Many people come, they complain. So it is important that IBC had to ensure the internal party mechanisms is clearly spelled in those nomination rules. The aspect of the two-third gender, the issue of the party list under Article 90. You know, the party list has to be presented before the elections, and there must be that criteria has to be followed. So to me, I salute IBC and I take it positively. And moving forward, we should have a regular engagement, particularly with the SGs and the executive directors, so that we work together as a team to ensure by our elections in 2022 is going to be free, fair, and credible.
Dr. Chris Omalo, just on what is the preferred mode of picking candidates for various seats within Ford Kenya? Because
in Ford Kenya as a party, first and foremost, we normally put a notice to invite candidates to apply. So first you start by application that you are interested in being a presidential candidate or being a governor, like myself, I want to be the governor of Trans Nzoia. So that invitation must be there. Somebody must express, apply. Then the party looks at it, and in line with our constitution, we have three modes of elections. One, we have the universal suffrage of the party members, not outsiders. We don't want to allow ODM or UDA to come and participate in our party primaries.
How do you ensure that?
I have just told you e-Citizen. The Office of the Registrar of Political Parties, they launched the e-Citizen. So when it comes to party primaries, that e-Citizen, the members of that particular party will be provided with the list. For example, like yourself, you just go click of the button. If you're in Ford Kenya, it will show you in Ford Kenya. Even your ODM or Jubilee, it will show. So this will help in the sense that in some areas, people from a competing political party can come and participate in party primaries and vote for a candidate in the party primaries, who is weak.
Have you ever done universal suffrage nominations, party primaries?
Yes, we've done it before.
When?
We've done it before in the last year, last general election.
2017.
In Fort Kenya, in different regions.
What register did you use?
We used the register from the register of the political parties at that particular time. And that's why we have said that the office of the registrar of political parties is the one responsible to provide an updated list of the party membership, because that's the one which is supposed to be used in the party primaries. And that's why I'm saying...
How many members did you have then?
At that particular time, you know, when I wish you had allowed me, because you asked me which methods do we use in nomination.
Yeah, no, I'm getting somewhere, because you said that universal suffrage, you want to avoid ODM infiltrating from your nominations. And one of the biggest challenges that was in 2017 was exactly that. Because
what happened at that time?
Parties, just hold on, political parties used registers from the Iabc, not from their own.
It's not IBC, it is Office of the Registrar of Political Parties. Initially, ORPP used to be an IBC, but it moved out. So when it comes to nominations, the person responsible for the membership is not IBC. It is Office of the Registrar of Political Parties, which initially was an IBC, but now it's independent.
Okay,
so it's the one responsible. So when you talk of universal suffrage, means the membership in that particular county are the ones who participate in the election. So that is one mode. The second one, it can also be, you can also use we also have a provision for direct. Direct. We also have an electoral college where we have some delegates who also can be used. So all those are methods that are provided for in the party constitution. But it's unique in the sense that it depends with the region. For instance, if you are having elections, let's say in Trans Nzoia or Bungoma, where is the bedrock of Fort Kenya, you know, that's a place whereby we plan to use universal suffrage of the party membership. But when you go to a region whereby your membership is not that much, you don't have to go through the universal suffrage. It dictates. You can either use a direct mode, or you can use consensus. All right,
Dr. Chris, please check for me how many members you have of Fort Kenya and Bungoma. But as you do so,
I'll check with the Office of Registrar of Political Parties.
Let me.
It's a click of the button.
Fort Kenya,
no. I see it as a click of the button. So
okay, please check for us. Yes. SG Minor. So, universal suffrage appears to be the most democratic mode, but not the most friendly. If you're to look at the chaos that ODM and Jubilee witnessed in 2017 across different parts of the country. And your party, you've been making assurances that the best candidate will win.
Yes.
How possible is this, knowing that in this country there's this perception of there are favorites, especially the closest to the party leader?
Yes.
How will you ensure there's fairness in such a competitive process?
I will answer that, but I want to talk about the nominations in IBC and the sending of that letter, and what IBC could do to affirm the capacity of the parties to produce candidates whom people are interested in and whom people are supporting for certain positions. I think beyond sending the parties that letter, asking us to affirm the rules, IBC must be seen to progressively now affirm the capacity of the parties. For instance, nomination process is a very expensive process for political parties. Most of the political parties are not supported by the exchequer. The only sensible way to generate a very credible process is for IEBC to get involved, and we do understand they can't do it 100%, but they must be able to affirm the capacity of political parties from either preparation or offering the material that is should be availed for conducting of the nominations, including like the old boxes, the ballot boxes. Even just telling the parties, if you need 500 ballot boxes, we can lift the weight of you having to purchase those ballot boxes and affirm the capacity of the institutions to generate free and fair nominations. But having said that, and hoping that this is what our chairman might consider, then I would say that it is possible to do credible nominations, and UDA has been doing credible nominations, because nominations are as good as the preparation the party undertakes. If you're not prepared and you just walk into a nomination process with competitive aspirants, you can expect to fail if you have not fully prepared. So every detail must be worked out. It's a logistics issue, it's an operations issue, it's an issue of what human resource you are using, who has selected that human resource, electors? Is it the candidates who are bringing the electoral officers, or is it the party that is doing an independent way of recruiting those officers? Do you have the material? Do you have the ballot boxes? Do you have the ballot papers? So what I would say is that beyond the rules, there is the issue of the budget, there is the issue of the preparation, there is the issue of commitment to deliver free and fair nominations, because you cannot tell people I'm delivering free and fair nominations and you're not doing anything towards making that delivery in the way it should be.
And so, SJ Minor, if you make that admission that IEBC should actually step in, especially for parties that are not receiving financing from the Exchequer, and the memories of 2017 are not far off, are not far away from us.
Yes.
What are you then doing to ensure you have that infrastructure that can conduct those nominations? Because IBC will be so busy with other things.
Yes. You know, this is an electoral cycle. Nominations are not a one event. It's a connected event. What we are doing today will render to the nation better nominations or bad nominations. And the preparation I'm talking about is such that every political party must now be very seriously planning on how they are going to conduct the nominations come 2022. For instance, if that capacity is not affirmed, even by the preparedness of the NEC, the preparedness of the secretariat of the party, it means then the shambolic nominations may be repeated in April. But I can only speak for UDA.
Yes,
what I can assure, our aspirants is that we are at top gear in this preparation. Nothing is being left to chance. Any aspirant or any candidate who is in our strongholds can be assured that there will be nothing like consensus on candidates if they are not interested in consensus. And the only mode of securing that certificate will be through the nominations. And we have started the preparation of our aspirants. We have had a registration of aspirants. We have been capacity building with them, taking their views on what they think is the best way forward in terms of conducting these nominations. And we make our program very clear to aspirants. We don't surprise our aspirants. They are aware what time we open the stations, they are aware what time we finish, how many agents they can keep in a polling center, and we do the counting of those votes at the polling station level. So there is no carrying of those votes to another tallying center.
SG, that requires quite a budget, right?
Yes, it does require quite a budget. You know, first, the candidates themselves have to pay a nomination fees for the political parties. Now, part of that nomination fees is used towards delivering that process of nomination.
Let's hear from SGANC. What concerns are you dealing with, especially from your members? And looking at the spread of your membership, what is your biggest headache in terms of the regions?
Well, before we come to the biggest headache, the issue of nominations and identification of aspirants is something that we are taking quite seriously. Because for us, it's not just about someone being popular or someone wanting to vie for this and that position. It's also about the quality of the candidates that we want to present to the electorate. So in that regard, we are on high gear in terms of making sure we capacity build our aspirants. We are having forums with them with a particular focus on young people. And we have partners and benefactors that are injecting some training programs and funds to make sure that we get our aspirants properly trained to capacity build them in terms of the law, in terms of what is expected of them, orienting them into our structures, our laws, our constitution. So what we are doing is that we are engaging every other stakeholder within our party ranks to make sure that we will also have very free, credible nominations. It's not easy to conduct very free and fair nominations, but with the concerted efforts, it's doable. So what are our strategies? Secret ballot is one of the ways, modalities provided for in our constitution. Consensus, because part of the roles of a political party is to make sure that you mentor and you present to the electorate the right leadership, such that then it's also about the future. If you go to say a constituency whereby the party is popular and you feel that there is a leader that is promising, and you need to make sure that they keep emerging, they keep getting the experience that is needed. If you go to the developed democracies, you will find that by the time someone emerges to run for, say, president or governor, say, in the US, they have served for quite some time. Like President Biden has been in the Senate for almost 40 years. And what protects that space is a political party. So we're also trying to encourage a culture of building and building our candidates and our leaders for the future. So it's not just about getting someone and making them win. It's also about projecting and getting the right people, building them, and
that's a good thing, but I'm
yes.
just wondering, the infrastructure that you need is immense, especially if you're to do the universal suffrage, or secret ballot as you call it. So what are you doing to ensure that, including the rollout of the resources and the infrastructure that is required?
Yeah, it's quite a tough job, as you would imagine, because you've seen how nominations previously have ended up. You find probably there are some people who feel they are closer to the party leader or to the party ranks or to the deep state of the party, and they need favors here and there. But we are sticking to our nomination rules and procedures. As I told you, we are also strengthening our internal organs, like our elections board, to make sure that they have and we're also going to partner with Iabc and other partners so that we make sure we do this well. So we are on high gear on that.
How does Iabc help you do your nominations?
Oh, in so many ways. I mean, they can come in, you can contract them to come in to help you do the work. They can send officers, as my colleagues have said. Even
I don't think so.
You'll not be able to afford them.
There was such an aspiration. Just hold on, Simon. There was such an aspiration in 2017.
It would be a good position.
No party hired Iabc to do their primaries.
I'm saying it's a possibility, and it's something we're exploring. I mean, it's not that it's not possible, it's doable. It's a matter of getting to see how you engage them.
Okay.
Yes.
It's
provided for, you know.
You're on record saying that this time round you're going to use any means to ensure that you have the best candidate, whether it's by consensus or direct nomination. What is the progress in that?
So speaking as people who have been there, done that, tried hiring Iabc, you're not going to be able to afford them as ANC. Even we couldn't afford them, and we get money from the exchequer.
Actually shies away from working on.
And also there is the argument of the fact that these are people who will superintend over the general election. Why should they get involved in party primaries? But for us, we have made a deliberate decision, like you said, to put data at the center of decision making in the party, including on who's the best candidate. Data-based decision making is the one that makes us put consensus building and the direct ticket that is, based on data and research from credible firms as the most preferred modes of nomination. Now in ODM, we are not shy. We are saying that mode of election that you people think is the most democratic, in fact, in our rules, is very clearly stated that it is the last resort.
Universal suffrage.
Yes. And in fact, we are even moving away from the so-called secret ballot because it is what makes elections very expensive. Number one, Sam, a political party is like a club. People subscribe to join that political party. It is a club of members. It is not a club of the public. That is why Chris is talking about members taking part in selection processes for candidates. So if it is a club, I have a register now that was cleaned up after the elections of about 3.6 million people. We have had difficulty because of the relationship that Kenyans generally have with political parties. You go to Bungoma, you'll hear somebody saying, Mimi ni Ford Kenya damu, but they have never registered to be a member of Ford Kenya. We have people who say, Mimi ni ODM damu, hamwezi kunikataza kuvote, and he has never registered. So we looked at what are the issues, what pushes people to identify with political parties but don't take that step to register. Some of them told us that it is the cost that is prohibitive. Even the 10 shillings that was there to register as a member was prohibitive to many, which is why we as ODM took the step to waive all membership fees for ordinary members. So you will not have an excuse next time for you when we say that we are going to use the party register for nomination. Now, I want to make very clear And you see, this is what I was saying. The IEBC have not raised any serious issues with the substantive provisions on nominations. For instance, they have no problem with our modes of nomination. We have made it very clear that the first method of nomination in ODM is consensus, because this is a discussion amongst party members. It is not a discussion amongst strangers. It's amongst party members. And the beauty is that having seen the difficulties that we went through as ODM, part of it was the constricted timelines that IEBC was giving. In the elections operations plan, they had provided for around 7 days in April for all political parties to conduct their primaries. We sat down with them in August and we told them this does not work for us as ODM. And we pointed them to the law that in fact in the Elections Act, there is no requirement that political parties all conduct primaries at once or in a specific period. All the law requires is for them to receive the candidates list at a certain date, which is 3 months from the general election. So I was very happy that after the meeting we had, the IEBC wrote to us a letter and they said they were going to change the date of gazettement for the general election to January 19th from the proposed, in the elections operations plan, they had said March, then give political parties like us who actually require time, because we have to cover the whole country to do this nomination. So as I speak right now, ODM has already begun its party primaries. We have consensus building going on in various constituencies. Just the other day I had candidates from Kajiado East, candidates from Narok East. They are sitting together. There are 10 candidates and we are moving. Every week another 2 are knocked off. They are able to agree to support somebody else, so that by the time we get into the elections proper, I am able to demonstrate that there's a process. So for us, it's consensus. The direct ticket that is much demonized. We are not afraid to say that it is possible to give a direct ticket to someone. And we can be criticized all we want. That's what I'm coming to. The basis is a scientific survey. It saves us a lot of time, it saves us a lot of money. I have conducted scientific surveys. There are pollsters, credible pollsters in the world, even if you want me to get them from Argentina or wherever, because you will say our local pollsters might be compromised.
Who sponsors that survey?
The party sponsors the survey. We pay for it. It is very expensive, but you have to do it. We did one poll in Msambweni, for instance, and the results of the party primaries, if I show you the results of the party primaries and the results of the survey, it was spot on. We did the same in Ganda, we did the same even in Bonchari. But in Bonchari, we put our foot down and said, why are we going to spend X amount of money and then lack resources to support our candidate? So if the the consensus does not work, we will invoke science and data, and science does not lie. And by the way, Sam, people always say that all political parties will play games. We are the ones who are interested in winning. If you play games and you lose, then you are doing nothing. So I was very bold to stand by the decision we made in Bonchari to give a direct ticket, because the science and the data backed it. And the result of that election proved us right at the political party. So if those two fail, we then go to a delegates system. We have a list of delegates of a party. You can get them into a hall like this and then let them make that decision. The problem with secret ballot, and I wish all these political parties that are talking about trying them all the best. Madam Veronica, yes. I hope you will find the magic bullet to do a secret ballot, because secret ballot pushes the cost of that election almost 200%. And the problem is that when there is, for instance, instances of violence, people have kicked ballot boxes, they have burnt ballot papers, you need to reprint those ballot papers, you need to source fresh ballot boxes. Is very expensive. So what we have done, we have said that in ODM, we have the register of members. Even if it is universal suffrage, it doesn't have to be secret ballot. We can get a hall like this, because these are not many people at the ward level. At the ward level, it's maybe...
It's just funny.
No, let me explain.
You continue calling my studio a hall.
Let me explain. Okay.
I take offense.
It is just because of the dimensions. Like your studio is so large, it looks like a hall. It's a compliment. Yeah, so it looks like a nice place to do elections. And there are also cameras, so that we get any... So the point I was making is... Yes, even in Parliament, they don't start by voting by secret ballot. There's division in Parliament. You can get people here, 300 people, and say, okay, we have 3 candidates, Sifuna is there, can we have a division? And then you count. The beauty with that is that if there is any problem, you can actually call those people back even within an hour and tell them now, what are the issues? We have resolved them. Can we have an election until we have a candidate?
Okay, all right. I want us to take a short break because we are now at 7:27 a.m. This conversation continues as we look at the political parties of 2022 and also how their plans and their schedules are reconciling with that of IEBC in conducting the general election of 2022. We're back shortly.